Hello, this is Kaki Lee, and welcome to the Abundant Goddess Show, where I'll be sharing daily, bite sized pearls of wisdom I've picked up along my life journey that has allowed me to embrace and unleash my inner abundant goddess. And that's exactly what I want for you, to embrace and unleash your inner abundant goddess. I love talking about anything and everything to do with life, but I especially love talking about money, mindset, and energy, which is the main focus here. If you like what you hear, make sure you subscribe to my show so you don't miss out on your daily dose of wisdom from myself. And also follow me and let me know what you think on Facebook and Instagram at Abundance with Kaki Lee. Now let's get into it. Welcome to the Abundant Goddess Show and day 28 of my 40 Days to 40 series, where I share 40 things I've learned in my life so far over 40 days. Today's pearl of wisdom is stop watching the news. This one might be a bit controversial because I know many people love watching the news and they want to keep up with everything in the world. And I'm not saying don't keep up with what's happening in the world, but really discern what you feed your mind. Because, like it or not, the media feed you what they want you to think. Whether you are in an Eastern country, whether you're in a Western country, the media feeds you what they want you to think. Think about that. Take some time out and think about what I just said. I grew up being told that I should watch the news every single night to get my dose of news, and that I need to keep up with what's happening in the world. Yes, I do believe I need to keep up with what's happening in the world. But even from a young age, I hated watching the news. It was doom and gloom. It was just, there was never really anything that was happy on the news. There was a part of me that rejected watching the news. And when I started going on my spiritual personal development journey, I quickly realized why. Because I didn't like what they were feeding me. It was all fear based. That was why I didn't like it. And as I was going into this world of spiritual and personal development, so many, if not all, of the mentors that I, work with or I learn from podcasts or from reading the material, they all say, don't watch the news because the news is brainwashing you. And I was like, oh, okay. I never thought of that. And even the other day, as I was listening to Bob Proctor's book, he said something along, I can't remember it was about the news, but he was talking about propaganda. Tell someone something multiple times, you keep repeating it, keep repeating it, keep repeating it, and they will believe it. And it made so much sense to me when I heard him say that, because that is exactly what the news does, whether you are in a Western country, in an Eastern country, anywhere in the world. That's what the mainstream media does. And I'm not saying don't watch the news if you're someone that watches the news, but be really mindful of what you're feeding your brain and how much you are allowing the news to brainwash you. And why not look at alternative sources of news as well to get a more balanced view? Because even looking at current situations, there's two sides of the stories, but we always only get fed one side. So my thing is that I always like to look on both sides and then use my discernment and what feels good for me to decide what I want to believe. Because to be honest, I don't really know what's real and what's not real anymore. There is so much shit out there. So that was a lesson that I learned and made me realize why I didn't like watching the news, even from a very young age. And when I went into my spiritual journey, the personal development journey, and hearing that from the mentors that I learned from, it was like, yeah, it makes so much sense. So my takeaway message for you today is to really discern what you feed your mind. Because if you keep feeding your mind fear, you are going to be in fear. That is your mode of operation. You're going to be in fight or flight, and that is not a healthy way to live. And so I really urge you to have a look at what you're feeding your brain in terms of, letting the media into your mind, because there is a lot of programming that comes with the news or propaganda or, things that people want you to believe. My thing is just stop watching the news and go find your sources of news that feels good to you. I'm not saying to bury your head in the sand, but really making sure you have both sides of the story and not just one side. And that's the end of the show and day 28 of my 40 Days to 40 series. Please share this episode with anyone that needs a reminder to stop watching the news. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe to my show and remember to follow me over at Facebook and Instagram at Abundance with Kaki Lee to connect with me there and let me know what you think of the episode. Lastly, if you're interested in working with me or learning from me, send me a DM on Facebook or Instagram or email me at hello@kakilee.com.